Okay, so welcome to Action Figure Hospital, or Hot Toys Hospital, whatever you want to call it. This is the lab. So we're going to be repairing Hot Toys figures today. There are a couple different methods that are really, I would call best practices at this point. They've been so reliable for me. Different problems call for different solutions. Different materials react differently to different kind of chemicals and compounds and substances and treatments. So I'm going to go over the different ways I fix different pieces with these Hot Toys figures. So for fabric, like clothing, like this guy right here, we're going to be doing some repairs on him today. Anything with fabric, you really want to use this E6000 glue. We'll go into this a little more later when we get to specifics. For items like leather, leather has a nice shine to it, a nice high sheen. You want to use hot glue. We've got our hot glue gun charging right here. This collar button right here, he moves his neck back out of the way so you can see. I mean, this is a seamless job. You'd never know. This collar button was hot glued back. Same thing with this. This is hot glue. Hot glue, I like it because it's not as permanent. If you need to pull it off and do a repair, you can actually make mistakes with hot glue and clean them up pretty nicely. It doesn't leave any residue or anything like that. One caveat to that is don't ever apply hot glue directly from the hot glue gun onto your Hot Toys leather. You always want to use an applicator, anything, a needle or a screwdriver. You'll see in the demonstration next up when I demonstrate the hot glue application that you always use some sort of a tool to take the hot glue from the glue gun, and apply it to the fake leather, the Hot Toys leather. Otherwise, you will burn the surface of the leather, and possibly, in removing the glue, the dried up glue, you'll remove part of the surface of the fake leather. So, just a little tip there, a little warning. Hot glue is a better solution than E6000 just because it's not as permanent. It's extremely strong. For the purposes of these Hot Toys, it's strong enough. I mean, you can manipulate it and play with them and pose them with that hot glue, and it's not gonna fall apart. But it's also not so permanent that you can't take it off and remount it. For fabrics, though, the E6000, unfortunately, you don't want to be putting hot glue on these fabrics. E6000 is really the way to go. So there's just one more tool that I like to use to fix these Hot Toys figures, and that is a little something called Embroid Pro Weld. Now this is for plastic on plastic, so it's not when you're joining plastic or metal to fabric or something to a leather outfit or something like that. This is specifically for plastic on plastic. This chemical is for when you need an absolutely invisible solid joint, a solid seam between two pieces of plastic. Say you've got a plastic piece that's fractured, that's been cracked in half or something like that, and you want to join these two pieces back together without the crack being ever visible again. This is your go-to chemical for that task. Here, I'll show you a little something here. This is Luke Skywalker at Bespin. This arrived cracked in half. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this piece. It's pretty well known. This weather vane here is supposed to be all one piece. I mean, some parts of it unscrew and things like that, but this is the electronic portion right here. You've got a button that turns it off and on, and this is designed to hold. You're supposed to be able to, let me take this off the stand here. This is really interesting. There is a point, there is a reason why I'm showing this. Okay, so that base that you just saw, I just popped it off here. This is supposed to hang from your ceiling. This is supposed to be a load-bearing structure here, okay? And this is heavy. This is a 12-inch figure, man, and this is all metal. Okay, so this has got some considerable weight to it, and this is supposed to be a load-bearing structure. And this right here is all supposed to be one enclosed case for the electronics, and it arrived, and from what I understand, multiple customers have been receiving these cracked in half. Mine arrived in the box cracked. This whole thing right here was cracked in half. So this was just, imagine this broken in half in two pieces and all the electronics dangling out of the bottom. You know, this LED light here was just a light bulb dangling on a wire, and this was completely decoupled, hanging down below in the box. So I had to fix this in such a way that it would be strong enough and not have any seams either. No ugly seams. So let me get this in the light. You see this? I'll provide some still photos too. So that was a perfect go-to moment for Embroid Pro Weld to do its thing, and it is actually, I'm going to mount it back in the base again. It is actually stronger now than it was originally. This thing holds, this is a heavy, thick, solid plastic base. This is not hollow. So this, you can dangle this all around. You know, how funny would it be if this broke on camera right now? But no, you can bounce this around, and let me power this little thing off here. But yeah, so this is a perfect example of Embroid at its best. It's a seamless seam. The only gap you see is the original manufacturer's gap. Again, we'll go with the still photos to see that. I'm trying to put it in the light here. And again, later on, I'm going to give a more in-depth warning about Embroid, is that if you splash it around or spill it around, it's going to eat the paint off. This stuff melts plastic. That's why it's so effective. So you see here, you can see what looks like intentional, like the artist intentionally painted paint flecks, the sort of things you'd see on a model airplane to show that the wind has whipped away some of the paint on the front of the wings. It's a common thing called paint flecking. Well, here it looks like paint flecking, but it actually is not the artist's intention. This is Embroid Pro Weld eating the paint off the plastic itself, but it actually looks great. That was a sloppy application, but I'll show you some better stuff later. Let's get to work here. So what my biggest goal, with this video, what I really like to see after this video, is I'd like to see an end to these posts on you know, Sideshow Freaks forum and Hot Toys forums and all the different collector forums where people are discussing, you know, hey, I fixed my Hot Toy figure with super glue or crazy glue. I don't want to hear super or crazy anything being used on these things. They're too delicate, they're too expensive, they're too finely handcrafted for people to be glopping it up with super glue and crazy glue and all this mumbo jumbo that doesn't have a very good shelf life, frankly. I mean, the super glues and the crazy glues, you know, they don't last forever. They eventually crackle up, and I've even heard Gorilla Glue, you know, that stuff expands. You know how Gorilla Glue expands? I don't know if anybody's ever used that. It expands and seeps out of the cracks of the joints that you've just, you know, joined back together. It's just ugly stuff. I want to see an end to those kind of fixes, and I want to see the right tools for the right job. There's different kinds of tools for different kinds of materials that need to be joined together, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and that's what I'm here to discuss today. So today we're going to be repairing the Joker and Angelica from Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's get into her first. So here we go with Miss Cruz here. The damage we're going to be repairing today with hot glue on her fake leather boots is right here. This buckle has come undone. You see that? It's a shame. It's amazing how often on these Hot Toys the leather pieces just fail. I'll show you some examples later. So this is working. This is all good. So we're going to use this as the model. These two buckles here on the left boot. We'll use those as a guide for repairing, you know, where we're going to fix it on the right boot. So one thing I like to do right away is to uninvolve as many items from the process as possible. So get this sword out of her hand, get it out of the way. Let's go all the way and just pull off the boot that we're going to be working on. Okay, so got it. Let's just get her out of the way completely. The reason for that, I just don't want to, you don't want to be dealing with all these extra things you don't need to deal with, dripping hot glue all over everything. So let's get the other boot. I'll pull that off as well, and we'll use that as a guide. Here we go. So we got the other boot. So we got the two boots. So let's see where these go. Now I have her other buckle has separated because each boot has two buckles. So kind of get an idea where to put these and fix them on. Okay, so we've got our hot glue gun has been charging. It's ready to go. We've got our micro screwdriver kit. We're going to take this little guy right here. We'll use that as the applicator. Now you've got to work fast. This hot glue sets very quickly. It cools down very quickly. So we're going to drop a dollop of the hot stuff right here on our little pallet, and get it some on the tip here. And it's already starting to cool down, so we're just going to go real quick and get a little amount of it onto the item to be glued, and quickly, I think it's already dry, it's already cooling down. Let's just quickly fasten it. Yeah, I'm using my finger inside the boot to provide resistance to my thumb, so I can just kind of push it down on there. Now, it's already cooled off. It works that quickly. Now, the nice thing about hot glue, you see, is it doesn't leave a mark or a residue normally. So you can kind of just, let me get my tweezers here. See, we've got a little bit of slop hanging out there, a little bit of slop dangling. So we're going to just use our tweezers. We can just pull that right out, and it won't leave anything nasty, unlike the chemical glues. There we go. That's pretty nice. See? Pretty nice and seamless. Compare the two. So we got one more to go. Okay, here we go. It's cooled off. I'll show you what I've just done off camera. I'm going to do it again. So I've got a little bit of, you can see some of the hot glue is on the tip of the needle. I basically, here, let me pull this off. I'll show you what I do. So you've got it leaking out of the, you see it's spilling out of the sides. So you want to, here, I'll start fresh on this side. I already did this side. So I'll start on this side. You want to get your finger in there to push back from the inside. And you don't want to stab the leather, you want to stab the glue. So you're going to run along the surface, and you're going to slide the needle right under the glue. You see what's going on? The needle pushes the glue right off the surface, leaving the leather underneath perfectly clean, perfectly glue-free. Now, don't scratch the leather. I mean, this is really delicate work. If you need to use glasses or a mounted magnifying glass to do this, please do so. But you see what's going on. Let me see. So you see how I'm just gently needling it away. I'm gently coaxing it. I'm not stabbing into the leather. And you see I'm pinching. I got my finger underneath inside the boot here. And I got my thumb, and I'm pinching. I'm holding the leather that I just mounted on. I'm holding that in place while I'm gently coaxing. Just gently. You don't want to scratch the leather. I keep saying leather. It's pleather, fake leather, but whatever. So you're gently just trying to coax that glue, the extra glue, off. Now this was on purpose a very sloppy job. I generally use a tiny little spot of hot glue, but just I want you to see that this is reversible. You know, you can clean this stuff off. You just got to be careful. See if I can just get a little more off. I want you to be able to see how this just comes right up. You know, you can even slip it underneath the mounting that you just made, the piece of leather the strip that I just mounted on there. You could even slip it right underneath a little bit to clean it real close, you know, close to the edge. So that's it. I think it looks pretty good, pretty darn good. Another more or less seamless job done with hot glue. Take a look. It looks good to me. Okay, so for gluing things onto fabric, Hot Toys fabric, like shirts like this, or like pants, any kind of item like buttons, you see this button here, that needs to be glued onto directly onto fabric. You want to, I like to use something called E6000. You see it comes in a little packet here. There's quite a few of these guys in here. I got mine really cheap at Walmart of all places, but you can get it at specialty stores like Michael's. Make sure you get the clear version. See, it says clear. You don't want like a pasty white residue all over your figure. And make sure that, you know, there are different types of E6000. E6000 is just a brand, so you want to make sure it says jewelry, fabric, wood, ceramic, and more. There are other ones that are just for, I don't know, plastic or wood or I don't know, concrete. That make sure it's fabric. It mentions fabric there. So here we go. So as you can see, we've got a number of tools here. I got some tweezers. We got a needle here. Little, barely see this thing. This needle. We've got a micro screwdriver kit. What we're going to be doing is we're going to glue. I've already done one. Here's a button right here. We've lost 3 buttons on the Joker's shirt. 1, which is already glued back. 2 right here, which we're going to do right now, and then 3 on his cuff, his Cufflink. So what I found is I've got these tweezers here. I thought these would be perfect for handling this little button. Let me see. I'll pull it closer to the camera here. This little button here. And you know what? In the end, the best thing was just to have your finger a little bit moist. You got to be careful with this. You don't want the moisture in your finger to create some sort of capillary action, suck all the glue up. But basically, put your finger down. You see it, pick it up like that, and you're going to just apply it to the glue we're about to put on his shirt. I hate doing it that way. I'd rather use a tool than my own. Fingers, no matter how clean they are, they're always dirty. There's always oils in your skin and things like that. But for the purposes of this is the best we got. There's other applications where we can use tweezers for handling hot. There's a number of tools we can handle for different things. We've got, if I pull up here, you can see a number of hot toys that I've repaired with different methods, where tweezers and even pliers came in handy. But for this kind of job, this kind of delicate work, your fingertip is the best tool, and you're going to see why. So first what we're going to do is we want to squeeze. Well, first off, before I even do that, this is his vest. He has a big purple overcoat, but this vest goes on over his shirt. With this vest on, I took it off, but with this vest on him, I could still easily access these 2 spots here to do the work. You really want to take off everything that is not needed. How do I say this? You want to remove as many pieces, as many things to get messed up by glue as possible. So we can remove his head. Just do that. Take his head off. I'm not going to take his tie off because that is a pain to get back on. You got to do the whole collar over again. Well, at least on this one I have to. Try to remove. I'm not going to take his shirt off. These things weren't really designed like Barbie dolls, where you can just take all the clothes on and off easily. That's actually kind of why the buttons came off in the first place. But too much manipulation of the clothing. So stripping them down to here, just removing the head, anything that can get gummed up, that should be enough. So So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this. We're going to take a tiny dab, all right, and we're going to use this white cardboard that I have here as our mixing palette, just as a painter would mix paints. We're gonna do the glue on this. Now watch out. You probably can't see on camera. This glue is just like hot glue, like from a hot glue gun. It leaves like long stringy like spider web things. So this glue, I've just applied it. I need to right away. We're gonna take this needle. This needle. We're gonna take a tiny bit. I mean tiny. Look, you can barely see that, okay? I mean tiny. You don't want this stuff peeking out once you've applied it. And we're gonna touch it right to that little spot where we want to land the button. And then we take our fingertip, pick up the button like that, and we go right down there, right directly down, no sliding around. And I'm gonna take my other finger and I'm gonna push down. I'm not pushing very hard, okay? All right, you don't want to squeeze all the glue out so that it peeks out of all the sides of peeks out from under the sides of the button. Now the instructions say to hold firmly for 2 minutes. These are delicate little things. You don't need to hold anything firmly. It's going to stay. It takes about 24 hours to cure. You can even wait 72 hours if you want. But I mean, after just a couple minutes, this thing is on. This is on to stay. These are tiny little parts. So see, I'm just kind of gently dabbing it. I've made absolutely sure. I'll take some still photographs and show. I've made absolutely sure not to let the glue peek out of any of the edges of the button. I try to put such a small, tiny, infinitesimal dab of this ultra strong E6000 glue right in the center so I can just lightly land this button right down on it. And that's it. That's all you really need. You see? I'm just dabbing down just a couple times. And that's it. Just let them rest. That's it. You're done. You're done. Absolutely done. Now I've done, a minute ago, I just did the same application on the Cufflink. And it's the same thing. You just want to gently make sure like a hard part of the body is underneath the fabric, so you have something firm and flat underneath to press on when you're pressing this down. But again, you want to, since you're using your fingertip here, I'm using my thumb tip on this one actually. See, my middle finger is underneath, giving resistance as I gently press. Now, if you put too much glue, you're going to run into something called capillary action, where there's too much glue and it comes out from around the edges. It peeks out from around the edges of the button, and then as your thumb, your fingertip is pressing down on it, as your fingertip goes flush onto the surface of the flat button, it creates a suction, and so the glue is sucked over top of the button due to what's called capillary action. So you really want to be sparing with this glue. You don't want this stuff, trust me, you do not want this stuff coming up out from underneath. Just a tiny pin drop, you know, just put the head of the needle into the glue that I used there. And again, I mentioned those spider web sort of stringy. Here, let me see if I can move this over back to this needle here. You probably won't see on the camera, but as I pick the needle up, you know, you might see these stringy things of glue. You want to use your finger and pull those off before you move over or across the Hot Toys action figure, because you don't want that crap getting on the clothing or the head or anything. I mean, good luck getting that out. I mean, these are hand painted. Okay, I've seen the photos of the people in the factory or in the workshops actually painting. Each one of these are hand painted, and you smear some of that glue across his forehead or whatever. That's it, man. That's it. You know, say goodbye to your paint job. You know, there's a reason why these cost so much. So anyway, well, here are the results. I'm satisfied. Take a look, see for yourself. It looks, I mean, like it's straight out of the factory. So absolutely great. Love this stuff. E6000. Okay, now I'm going to show you something devastatingly strong. I mean, outrageously powerful adhesive. In fact, it's not even what I would call an adhesive anymore. This is more. This bonds things. It actually chemically bonds things. It's more of a solvent. I think it should be classified more as a solvent than an adhesive. It's called Embroid Pro Weld. Embroid is the company. Pro Weld is the product. It says right here for styrene, butyrate, ABS, and acrylic. So this is for specific types of plastics, mainly the kind of plastics that, let's see if I can pull this over, Hot Toys are made of, like this guy. This guy's Iron Man's plastic is perfect, but I mean, all these Hot Toys are pretty much made of the plastics that are used in these Hot Toys are compatible with this particular adhesive. This is monstrous. I mean, this is a monstrously strong and monstrously dangerous product to use. You can absolutely destroy your figure or whatever. Forget about action figures. Whatever project you're working on, you can absolutely destroy it with this chemical. But it is the safest and most useful when used the right way. What it does now, I mentioned capillary action before. Remember, I mentioned capillary action. We were talking about using the hot glue gun on those buttons for fabric. So here we're going to use capillary action to our advantage. What you do is this basically melts down plastic and then allows it to basically bond to other plastic. So you can take two pieces of plastic. I've got a light switch cover here that I chopped up with my snips. My handy snips here. I'm going to just take this plastic and this plastic are the same plastic. I cut this piece off of this. So I'm going to bond them together. And again, this is not glue. This literally melts the plastic down and then rejoins it. So in fact, before I unscrew this, I need to say a few words here. You need to use so little of this stuff. especially if you're working on these hot toys over here. You need to use this so sparingly. I'm talking about you're going to drop a droplet of it on. Remember I was talking about using only a little bit of hot glue before for the fabric? This is like the same sort of deal. What you're doing is you're taking the two pieces, okay, and you push them together real hard like this. See, I'm applying pressure. Actually, you don't even have to do it really hard to start. When you're just bracing them, you just apply pressure and you drop it, and see the suction, the capillary action is going to make the Embroid Pro Weld suck up between the space between these two pieces of plastic here. It's going to go like right in there. And now I'm gonna put real pressure on it now. I'm really holding it. And you only need 10 seconds. That's what the bottle says, 10 seconds. I usually count to 30 just to be safe. But I mean, this is, once it's on, that's it. It's not ever coming loose. The reason why I'm telling you this is because if you put this, I use it on my Iron Man. If you allow this stuff to run, and it will run, it works on capillary action, so it actively seeks out holes and nooks and crannies. So I applied it to the underside of the armor for the Iron Man to fix the inner workings where the armor connects to each other. If it had run to the outside of the armor, where the visible parts, it would have eaten the paint up, everything. So we're done. Okay, so everything you see here has actually been fixed at one point or another with one of these different methods that I've shown you. Here's an interesting one. Alice here from Resident Evil has had almost everything on this leather harness glued back with hot glue. I mean, everything. If I take all these out, see if I can show you this fixture right here. I'll do still photographs of all this. All of these attachments here. These rivets, I don't know what else to call them, have all been, and the straps where they connect behind the belt have all been glued back. The holsters, everything, because this stuff just pops out so easily. Iron Man was an interesting case. Iron Man, he had, and I bet you a lot of people have this problem. I haven't looked it up. I don't even bother looking up to see what's a common issue and what's not anymore. When I find something wrong or broken in quality control, I get to work fixing it. But I'm sure I'm not the only person who's had this problem. This shoulder plate, I had to use the Embroid Pro Weld solution I discussed earlier to get this upper shoulder plate piece to stop falling out of the lower shoulder plate. So you got the upper and the lower, see? And they're supposed to slide smoothly over one another. So I'll hold the bottom plate stationary and just move the upper plate. You see what's going on? So you've got two shoulder pads, one smoothly moving over the lower one, and there's sort of a pin underneath that slides and it allows that sliding movement, and the two little clamps that kind of keep the pin in place so that it just slides back and forth. They keep it from falling out. Well, they open up and they open up and loosened up, and so the pin just slides. The whole shoulder plate, the upper shoulder plate, just falls right out. So I had to pinch them back together with tweezers and pliers that I've got over there, and use Embroid Pro Weld to tighten those pins back down, those clamps back down tight enough, just narrow enough that the pin can pass through them, sliding the shoulder plate without falling out. So that was an interesting fix. I would not have been able to do it without without using Embroid Pro Weld. Luke Skywalker here. So I've got him. This actually is a glowing lightsaber. It's I actually swapped the Medicom Luke Skywalker lightsaber. Let me power this off. Doot. His belt. Let's get this out of here. Here, all of these items that you see here, these belt loops or belt buckle, lightsaber holders and loops and things and hooks, were all hot glued right back on the same way you saw me do the Penelope Cruz figure over there. So that's it for now. As you can see, just these few techniques are enough to cover a wide range of repairs. Anything as simple and mundane as gluing an accessory back onto an outfit, or as complicated and complex as repairing the inner mechanical workings of Iron Man's plate armor or what have you. Repairing body bucks as well. I probably should post some more stuff. There's a lot more to these hot toys. You never know what kind of repairs you're going to need to do. So, and I think I might do a NECA video too. I know NECA is a big one people need to do a lot of repairs on. So, thanks again for watching. Take care.